Hi everybody, my name is Deb Passley. I'm from the Midlife Hub and I'm here today with Laura Walker, celebrating the launch of her brilliant new book, Dancing with Fear and Confidence. The book deals with how to liberate yourself and your career in midlife, so perfect for us. And when I read it, I just felt that the content was just so relatable, and I instantly just felt like Laura had just been in my head, which was a bit weird. But the great thing is that it's packed full of so much content that is backed up by superb research. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity to have a quick chat with Laura and just find out a little bit more about why you made this book and what you're hoping to get from it. So hi Laura, thanks for joining me.
Morning, thank you.
So maybe first of all, tell us a little bit about you.
Cool. Well, I'm in midlife too, so I'm hoping that means that obviously I can relate to the topic. I'm probably slightly ahead of some of the people on the hub, and also I've transitioned quite a lot about my life. So one of the prompts around writing the book was there was a lot going on for me. So I got divorced, I was made redundant. I transitioned through menopause, there was the whole, my kids were growing up and leaving home. So it was lots of prompts to transition. So I took the opportunity to set up a new business, but also to go back to school. And it was the research that I did when I did my master's that prompted the book and the topic.
So with that, what actually made you write it? What was the inspiration?
I never ever thought I had a book in me. I'm not one of those people. A lot of people are, I dream of being an author. I dream that I, have a book inside me. That's never occurred to me, quite honestly. It was only once I'd done the research into midlife career reinvention and what that involves, because I really wanted to understand it more. People kept talking to me about it, organisations and also friends and family, and obviously I was going through it. So I decided to do my research on that, and it was only when I started to present it at conferences, so at research conferences for coaching and careers, people kept coming up to me and saying, you should write a book. And it was only when they said that to me, and I shouldn't really be that bothered in some ways. I think, why am I that bothered about what other people say? But they're like, no, other people need to know this stuff. You need to do it for them. And that's what prompted me to think about it a bit more. And also it was about reach. So I work with people individually, but you can only coach so many people. Yeah. So if I could write a book, then I could share what I discovered with a lot more people. So that's
fantastic. And how do you think it differs from other self-help books that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, I've read my fair share of self-help books, as you can probably imagine. And,
me too.
Yeah, and a lot of them are quite superficial, if I can kind of say that. So there's this kind of idea that you get really clear about what you want, and then you work out a plan to get there. But what I discovered in my research and just in life and general conversation, just makes sense, doesn't it? That if you don't know what you want, that sort of advice about be really clear about what you want and go for it doesn't help. And a lot of people in midlife just know that they don't want to carry on doing what they're doing now for the next 10, 15, 20 years, but they don't know what they want to do. They know there's a dissatisfaction that's in them that's growing. There's a curiosity about maybe there's something else that I can do. They don't know what it is. So that's why I felt I wanted to write a book that helps them with that part. And that's why it's different. It's grounded in research, and it doesn't assume, what you want to do. It helps you to discover more about yourself and understand what that sort of transition is all about, so that you are ready when you do know a bit more about what you want.
Yeah, I think that's such a key point. There's so many people that I talk to now and have talked to over the years who just can't articulate what they want, and it's and I'm the same, right? It's really difficult to kind of go, what do I want? And nobody, to some extent, nobody's been able to help with that. It's almost like, well, you just need to think harder or something. It was like there's something blocking you as to why you can't articulate what it is that you want. And I think that is a really good point. That's the crux of what people really struggle with. And I think some of it is about committing to one thing or an idea.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really loved in the book was this concept of mini cells, many cells. And I
Yeah.
think that was quite liberating for me when I read it, in the fact that I don't have to be this one thing. I don't have to be, I'm not just one person. I am me, but in many different ways, in different circumstances.
Yeah.
So who do you think should read the book?
I think it'll bring most benefit to people who are approaching midlife or in midlife, who are either stuck, so they feel like they don't want to do what they're doing currently for the next 15, 20 years. They don't know. So not knowing when you're 40, 50, 35, whatever, it's quite hard, because you feel like you should know by then. You're an adult, you should know these things. But actually, most people don't. So people who are either feeling stuck, dissatisfied in some way, unsure, or are just even a little bit unclear, or even just curious, because I think one of the things about the book that we kind of start off with is just uncovering what's going on for people in midlife, and what's going on for you, to help you make sense of why you feel the way you feel. And then move on to, okay, so what are the things you really need to know about if you want to make a shift in your life or your career, and then get practical. So I think it's kind of for anybody who is either curious or stuck.
And when they read it, what do you hope that they feel and get out of the book?
To be completely honest, I wanted to write a book that I was proud of, that was going to help people, but also that was a little bit disruptive. Yeah. So that didn't just kind of recycle all the kind of the panaceas, the kind of simple things that lots of people say. I wanted to kind of make people think a little bit differently about themselves, but also about the topic, about midlife, to shift away from some of the myths and assumptions about, midlife crisis, or, kind of it's a time of questioning. It is a time of questioning, but it's actually, you can do something with that questioning. It's not just, you don't have to just accept these kind of phrases that are out there in society. So I did want to kind of disrupt the narrative that's out there, which I know we have in common. So we have that clearly in common around the Midlife Hub, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're disrupting the kind of prevailing narrative, and I wanted that too. So hopefully the kind of two are mutually supportive with that. But yeah, I did want to slightly disrupt.
So it's kind of, yeah, and it is so important to us that people, I guess, recognise that questioning is not bad. Questioning and kind of evaluation is something that we should do all the time. And, we somehow get this thought that we get to a point where we start questioning and doubting ourselves, and that's in some way negative and a bit of a crisis. And then you get sucked into the whole concept of midlife being a crisis and embarrassing and something you shouldn't admit to. And a little, we kind of say it as a derisive, comment to people having a crisis, kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way at all. And the key thing is that self-awareness. And I think that's what I think people can get from this book, is with some really relatable, simple but informed kind of tools to actually sit back and actually go, no, actually, I know myself a bit better now, and that's okay, and it's a journey I want to keep going on, and just make the most of my midlife and actually enjoy it and see it as an exciting opportunity, rather than something that's going to be horrible and we just need to get through it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really genuinely don't think it is about survival. I mean, one of the things I talk about in the book is about midlife as a pivotal point in our lives, and there's loads of evidence to back this up, medical evidence as well, as well as leadership materials, psychology, loads of stuff out there which just shows that it's a pivotal point in our lives. And we're in the middle of our youth and older age, we're in the middle of society, younger, older generations in organisations. And how we pivot is really up to us as a collective, not just individually. It's quite difficult. There are things that you definitely need to know in terms of shifting your life. But as a group of people together, we can make a real difference to our own lives, but also to, society's view of this particular population and this particular community. So I think it is partly, the book is an individual book. So it is about, how do I make sense of what's going on for me? How do I get to know myself better? How do I uncover what matters most to me? And it explains that, but also gives people the chance to give it a go and to start that discovery process. But it's also more than that. So can you imagine lots of people doing the same sort of thing? It's kind of about a movement, and how do we kind of shift the conversations that we have individually, between people, as groups, as bigger groups, and so on.
You mentioned it earlier in the fact that this is about starting to be aware and actually starting to make that transition. So one of the things that I'm very passionate about is that there is some really good stuff generally out there now around menopause and midlife.
Yeah.
But Rosie and I, as part of the Midlife Hub, are very passionate about people taking action and actually doing something. It's very easy to read something or write something down or listen to something, feel very cathartic, and it's and kind of having an epiphany. But then if you don't change anything, you'll find yourself going back through that cycle. So what would your tip be, or what would your advice be in terms of what should people do once they've read the book?
Good question. I'm of the same view. I think it's great to pause and reflect and to understand and take stock and think things through. But ultimately, you do have to take a step. You have to step onto the dance floor. In my kind of dancing with fear and confidence metaphor, you need to actually do something. And sometimes that's just an experiment. It might not be it probably won't be a wholesale change in one go, but just trying something out, doing something a little bit differently, saying yes to something. By knowing yourself better, you can make much better choices about what you choose to try and what you don't choose to try, and those be deliberate choices. So I think for me, it's about taking a step, thinking about the next chapter, the next stage, the next series of moments, rather than necessarily thinking wholesale about, I've got to get this perfect at this stage and have a complete map for the rest of my life. I think that's a lot to ask for any individual, but also from a book. I mean, it's never realistically going to happen. But I think certainly people who've read the book have told me that they are really confident to take the next step and to know a broad direction of travel that they're heading in. And I'm really happy with that.
I think that, that's certainly how I felt. And I think it's also that, just saying, actually make a date with yourself to check back in regularly, to kind of keep yourself reflecting and thinking and reconnecting with the book. Certainly, I know my copy's an advanced copy, so I'm not going to show it because it's not the right cover, but it's kind of
I can show mine.
Going back and referring to, it is something you can dip in and out of and kind of refresh yourself easily on certain aspects. And I think that's important to keep yourself motivated and keep yourself grounded in what you first feel when you read the book. And in a way then to kind of keep yourself honest, because days, normal life kicks in. And in order to break that cycle and to make that transition, you've got to do something different to keep yourself going forward. So making a date with yourself to check in, I think is once a week is important. Well, Laura, thank you so much for joining me today. Best of luck with the launch. It's a fabulous book, and we wish you all the success.